Trudeau wants to put up yet another batch of migrants in Canadian hotels. Today I'm bringing you the first installment of our shocking investigation into what happened in the past when Liberals turned Canadian hotels into makeshift refugee camps. 800 illegal asylum seekers are currently being housed in Toronto area university dorms, but those dorms are being cleared out to make way for incoming university students. Now, the migrants aren't being cleared out to receive jobs and permanent housing that they would pay for. Oh no, friends. They're being cleared out and moved into area hotels, all at your expense. And I suspect those university dorm rooms are not going to be ready for Canadian students by the time they need them to be ready at the end of this summer. And the reason I say that is because I have a stack of access to information documents that detail what happened when Syrian migrants were housed in hotels as a stopgap measure when Justin Trudeau flooded Canada's refugee system with 50,000 Syrian migrants, all to keep a campaign promise. Now, this has been a huge investigation for us. I'm going to show you over the course of this week and next what I discovered about the physical destruction done to the hotels by the migrants. I'm also going to show you how the migrants are alleged to have treated the hotel staff, including female housekeeping staff. I'm going to show you how the migrants treated their own kids, including not monitoring, taking care of, or really caring about the bad behavior of their children at all. I'm going to show you some of the ungrateful attitudes these migrants held toward us, their host country, and our generosity. And lastly, I'm going to show you how the federal government tried to handle this situation. I'll give you a bit of a teaser. Part of it involves planting fake news. Today, we're going to get into some of the actual physical damage done by these migrants to the hotels who contracted with the federal government to house them in their early days in the country. I've got the emails the hotel management sent to their contacts at the government detailing, the mayhem really that was unfolding in their hotels. And I also have the internal government documents where the government bureaucrats discuss what is happening at the hotels. Let's get right into this. There's so much. This is an email from a hotel manager, and he says this all happened in the 2 nights that the Syrians were first there. I'm going to skip over some other things in the email because I promise I'll include it in another story, because today I'm just talking about the physical destruction that happened to nice hotels that we as Canadian taxpayers are now on the hook for. The email reads, "Good morning. This is a challenging electronic message to write. However, it is essential to inform you of the incidences that transpired here with this group. Fire caused in one of our guest rooms. Occupant tried to dry clothes in the heater. This caused fire to the heater and part of the carpet in the room. Pillows missing from rooms. In many rooms, guest directories, Bibles, telephone books, and any other paper promotional materials have been destroyed and left in guest rooms." They destroyed the Bibles, and something tells me this wasn't just incidental. Anyway, it goes on. "All attraction pamphlets in the lobby have been pulled out, destroyed, and left on the floor." The manager even suggests here that the federal government should be providing firm instructions for refugees for respect of all foreign properties, written for each in their own language. Another hotel manager complains that the refugees are staying for longer than the 4 days the hotel initially contracted with the federal government for, and now the refugees are treating the hotel as their home. This manager says the children are running through the hotel, causing damage to the pool, and the hotel has had to shut down the pool twice for repair or cleaning, and that manager estimates the damage to the hotel is over $5,000. And this manager, though, still has patience with the federal government, but the next one I'm going to show you, he's all out of caring. This manager wrote to a contact at the federal government. Again, I'm going to skip over some things in the email that I'll tell you about in a subsequent story. But these are just some of the concerns from this one hotel manager. The manager complains that the refugees are urinating in the lobby area. The manager says the rooms are marked with pens, and if they cannot clean it off, it will cost $500 to re-wallpaper each room. The manager complains of broken furniture and stained or damaged sheets, which have to be thrown away. The manager says that a regular guest would be fined $250 for the damage to just the sheets alone. This hotel also complains of yet another near fire being started right here in this email. The morning maintenance discovered a room with a metal luggage rack with wet clothes placed over an electric heater. If these people get electrocuted or cause a fire, will the government be paying for the damages? That same manager goes on to say that after all of the damages and labor costs due to the extra cleaning required, it's almost not even worth having the account because no one is paying for the damages, not to mention all the added stress caused by some of the, and then it's redacted. And this is an internal government document listing behaviors that are happening at a hotel that houses Syrian refugees. And the document explicitly points out the destruction of Bibles right here. Bibles being colored in and destroyed. Now, this is becoming a bit of a theme with at least 2 separate hotels now complaining that the Bibles are being destroyed by refugees. In this internal document, the government is aware that a hotel housing 124 Syrians is reporting a theft of microwaves, towels, shampoo, toilet paper, tissues, and pillows. The hotel says that there has been damage to towels and mattresses and broken furniture, and now garbage is being stuffed into heating units, causing a fire hazard. Here on page 261, an internal government communication says that the migrants clogged a toilet due to flushing food packaging. The migrants were invoiced $100 for a plumber, but then they also broke a window screen for which they have not been billed. The same government communication says that the government was now notified that head lice have been found on the families and their clothes and clotheslines have been laundered, and they've been provided special treatment shampoo. And at the same time, the government was also notified that bed bugs have been found and that they have spread to the rest of the hotel. In this internal government document, a hotel is reporting that the hotel has been, quote unquote, completely destroyed in terms of damage to rooms and common areas, with examples include baseboard heating systems being pulled from the walls, broken sink tops, clogged toilets, broken water valves on toilets, smoking in the rooms, and even holes punched in the wall of the child care room. As a result, the hotel had to be completely closed to non-Syrian refugee guests. Now, that's just some of the physical destruction one batch of migrants did to a few hotels contracted by the federal government. It's outrageous. No doubt Canadian taxpayers are on the hook for every penny of the damage incurred then. And no doubt there will be damage done to these Toronto area dorm rooms as these new migrants move into their new hotel homes. Tomorrow, I'm bringing you the second installment of my investigation into refugees being placed into Canadian hotels. I'm going to detail the treatment of the staff by the Syrians. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. Today is the second installment of our investigation into Justin Trudeau's policy of turning Canadian hotels into makeshift migrant camps. Today I'm going to tell you how the refugees abused the hotel workers, especially the female housekeeping staff. Yesterday we showed you the hotel emails and internal government documents that detailed the destruction the refugees were causing in the hotels that contracted with the federal government to house them in their first days after they came to Canada. Now, you can check out that report at refugeeinvestigation.com. Now, today, I'm going to show you how the Syrians were treating the hotel staff who were just doing their best to welcome the refugees to Canada and provide them with the same level of service as the rest of their guests. The hotels and the staff were going out of their way to accommodate the Syrians' unique needs. Again, I have access to information documents full of emails and internal federal government memos that show us it was absolutely no picnic for hotel staff who had to be at the smiling beck and call of these refugees. In this email that I touched on briefly yesterday, a hotel manager is complaining to their contact at the federal government about the behavior of the refugees in his hotel. The manager here is complaining that the refugees have been taking naps in his lobby. The manager also says that the hotel is a non-smoking hotel, as most are, and when the refugees are asked to stop smoking, they respond by blowing smoke directly at the employees in disrespect. The manager explains that the men in particular do not like being asked by the staff to stop, and they get very upset. Now, in this heavily redacted email, another hotel manager is explaining to his government contact that they have tried giving invoices to refugees who have busted a laundry water pipe causing a flood, broken a window screen, and who have also broken a toilet. What the refugees tell him is that someone else will pay for it. Now, that someone else portion is redacted. I'm assuming it says the government there. And when the manager says he told the refugees no, that they would have to pay for the damages, they began to yell at him. So the refugees, they're yelling at the managers who are just trying to stop them from destroying the hotels that have taken them in. This here is another internal government memo meant for on-site government monitors who are supposed to make sure that none of these behaviors are being committed or perpetrated by the refugees on the hotels. This memo says that clients have been washing their feet on the floor in the bathroom instead of using the tub, and the clients are not using shower curtains at all. But that's not where the disrespect for these beleaguered housekeepers ended. The same memo says that there was an incident with a housekeeper feeling intimidated by a male client. She was washing the bathroom on her hands and knees, and he was standing over her, staring at her. The next day, thankfully, the hotel sent a male housekeeper in to clean that room. But the male housekeeper was denied entry because the refugee's wife was in the room. You see, for the refugees, it's okay to leer at and intimidate Canadian women, but the refugees' wives, well, they couldn't even be in the same room with a innocent Canadian man. This is another checklist meant for those on-site government monitors who are supposed to be at the hotels to deal with the refugees so that the poor hotel staff don't have to. At the bottom, under notes, the memo reads, "There is a need for specific sessions for men and cultural and gender sensitivity to address reoccurring issues between female hotel staff and some of the men and boys. These reoccurring issues have caused the hotel to change their own internal protocols." What we can see here is that these hotels were quickly becoming an unsafe environment for the primarily female housekeeping staff to work in. And the male maintenance staff, well, they were constantly dealing with disrespect and damage from the refugees. Let's not lose sight of the fact that many of these people working in the hotels are minimum wage earners trying to work their way up in the world. And many of them are new Canadians themselves, people who waited in line to get to Canada, who did all the right things and who are now working hard to contribute to our country, their new country. And they never, ever should have been subjected to this ongoing abuse unleashed on them by a spoiled, detached man, Justin Trudeau, and his hasty virtue signaling. For a self-avowed feminist, Justin Trudeau imported a lot of misogyny that poor, underprivileged women are now forced to deal with. Tomorrow, I'll share with you some of the things the Syrians let their children get away with, and how children were left alone and unmonitored in dangerous situations by their parents in these hotels. And to see my whole series of reports and to help pay for our access to these damning documents and others, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see my entire series of reports into the behavior of Justin Trudeau's Syrian refugees at Canadian hotels and to help pay for our access to information documents used in this investigation, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. Today, I'm bringing you the third installment of our investigation into what happened when the Trudeau Liberals turned Canadian hotels into migrant camps to house wave after wave of Syrian refugees. Today, I'm going to show you how these little refugee children were dangerously neglected. Remember when Justin Trudeau, right after his election to Prime Minister, promised to bring in 50,000 Syrian refugees by Christmas that year? It was ridiculous. It was an unmanageable goal and pure virtue signaling. Trudeau did it to show the world just how much kinder Canada would be with a Liberal as a Prime Minister. But Trudeau didn't give much thought to the logistics of screening, housing, managing 50,000 people from a war zone, just like how he thought the budget would balance itself. I suppose Trudeau thought the refugees would just integrate themselves. But it didn't happen that way at all. What resulted was mayhem in the hotels that housed these government-sponsored migrants. Now, earlier this week, I showed you through government internal memos and through emails from hotel management the damage that the Syrian refugees were committing in the hotels contracted by the federal government to house the refugees in their first days here in our country. I also showed you the abuse and disrespect and even sexual harassment that the housekeeping staff in these hotels received at the hands of these migrant men. Today, I'm going to show you the part of this investigation that bothered me the most as a mom. I'm going to show you how dangerously neglected the little migrant children were by their parents in these hotels. This is one email from a hotel manager to their contact at the federal government. It reads, I write this email to you following major concerns from my team here at, and then the hotel's name is redacted. Now, I really like this manager because of what he's going to say next. Our team has catered to the refugees from the first day of arrival at our property. And the manager put the word refugees in quotes because even he knows many of them are not really refugees. Some of them are just economic migrants. Anyway, the email goes on to say that here are some of the concerns that we are faced with on almost a daily basis. 6 to 10-year-old kids that are filling 8 to 10 cups of coffee, kids using the juice machines as a toy and filling constantly, only leaving the cups around the lobby and restaurant. Eating sugar packets and mixing with water, some drinking, some wasting. Children are urinating on our front entrance wall. Kids go into our fitness room and pouring water all over the equipment. Kids alone in the dry sauna at 90 degrees. Children unattended riding on the luggage cart. If they fall down the stairs, the hotel is not responsible, so who is? Now, this internal email to the government's on-site monitors say the hotel is concerned over the number of fights occurring between children, particularly boys beating up on the girls. And when the hotel staff reports these occurrences to the parents, there does not seem to be a concern. In this internal government memo, serious neglect is described. Under number 3, children are being left unsupervised. Clients are in the rooms, but sending the children out to play in the hallways or both parents are attending an orientation and children are unsupervised. Other specific incidents include parents sent 2 young children, approximately 2 and 4 years old, outside to play. Front door is approximately 20 feet from a very busy road. The same parents also repeatedly allowed their child to play with water valves in the laundry room, resulting in flooding the entire laundry room with a leak into the breakfast room. Another incident involves a housekeeper coming in to find a mom asleep and young children attempting to wake her. Children tearing wallpaper off the walls. This is another email from another hotel manager to their contact at the federal government. The email reads, "The hotel has been seeing a large number of parents allowing their children to be unattended around the hotel. These are serious safety concerns for the hotel, and I'm sure the government sponsorship program." A few examples are as follows. Children left in rooms alone even at the age of 4 and 5. Many children in the pool throwing everything in sight in the pool and playing with no adults in the area. Running through the hotel in bare feet. In the fitness center, trying to lift weights and use machines. Again, no parents. Now, that same email also says that hotel staff found a baby left alone in a guest room, and when the employee went to tell someone, the employee was told that she had no right to complain. And this is yet another internal memo for those on-site monitors that again details health and safety concerns for the little migrant children. Many children were playing outside unsupervised, and safety was a concern as it is a busy parking lot. The issue has been since resolved as a security guard has been hired. There have also been several incidents involving young children wandering in the hall alone late in the night and children left unsupervised in the hotel rooms with no parents in sight. This may be due to lack of knowledge of parenting rules and regulations in Canada. No, that's neglect. This is yet another internal email. It says hotel management had issues with one room where children are peeing on the floor in the bathroom. The manager showed me pictures of a floor completely soaked, and there was toilet paper in the middle of the floor that was covered with feces. It was communicated to the refugee that this was absolutely unacceptable and should not be happening. This room has done this on several occasions. In this email, a hotel manager says that they tried to do their part by opening a meeting room for 2 days and supplied toys and activities. The email says this lasted only a few hours until the children took all the toys for themselves and stored them in their own rooms. That same hotel manager said that children caused damage to the pools and they've had to shut down the pool twice for repair and cleaning. Let me just say that I understand. These are little children. They're only doing what they've learned, things that they've been taught or have been allowed to get away with as acceptable behavior. Kids, no matter where they're from, will get away with exactly what you let them get away with. It's probably one of the laws of the universe. Kids will be kids, and they will push the limits every single time. And I know little kids coming on a long journey, and especially those coming from a war zone, will act out. It's hard. It's traumatic. I understand. I promise you I do. But where were the parents to make sure that the kids weren't in harm's way, to care for them, and to make sure these little kids weren't being ungrateful to their new country and their new hosts? If Canadian parents were allowing these behaviors and neglecting their kids in this manner, no doubt social services would be involved and investigating the parents. Instead, it appears here the hotels are reporting child neglect to the government, who is supposed to be managing the refugees, and it seems as though nothing is coming of any of it. I don't believe in the bigotry of low expectations. I believe that every single parent from any culture should and must take care of their own children. To see my other reports of our ongoing investigation into the Liberals' practice of housing migrants in Canadian hotels, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. Check back here next week and I'll tell you about how hotel swimming pools became Sharia compliant to accommodate these Syrian refugees. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see all of my reports from my investigation into Syrian refugees housed in Canadian hotels, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. And while you're there, if you can help cover the cost of getting access to these exclusive and explosive government documents, you can pitch in there too at refugeeinvestigation.com. Today, I'm bringing you part 4 of our exclusive investigation into what happened when Trudeau housed Syrian migrants in Canadian hotels. Today, I'm going to tell you how the Syrians and the hotels both sought to make the hotel swimming pools Sharia compliant. In our series of exclusive investigations into the troubling outcome of the Liberals' informal policy of turning Canadian hotels into migrant camps, I've covered the physical destruction the refugees have done to the hotels. I've uncovered the disgusting treatment of the hotel staff by the refugees, in particular the female housekeeping staff. I've covered how the refugees failed to safely supervise their own children. And now today I will tell you about how hotel pools became Sharia compliant to please the refugees. The first inkling we get about sex segregation happening at the swimming pools is in passing. It's buried as an afterthought in a government memo about all the other bad behavior happening at the hotels, courtesy of these refugees. It's right here. The issue raised by redacted. Lack of parental supervision was the main concern. Smoking cigarettes and hookah in the rooms. The smoke alarm has been pulled 2 times. 3rd time in the hotel could be fined. Smoking in large groups by the front door. Clients using too much of the free sugar packets. Clients hoarding towels or stealing towels off the housekeeper's cart. No girls swimming, and Bibles being colored in or destroyed. No girls swimming is just stuffed in there. But at least sex segregation was being mentioned as a problematic behavior at the hotels. So there's that. In this memo between government bureaucrats, though, they think they're going to solve the problem of the refugees not allowing their little girls to do what their little boys have been doing all along. Right here it says the IRCC, or Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, suggested an all-girls swim either before or after the pool closes. They suggested covering all the windows, and they see the hotel management as very receptive. The staff at the hotel was going to canvass clients to see if any moms would actually allow their girls to go swimming. Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada is a government agency giving advice to a hotel about how to make a Canadian swimming pool in a hotel Sharia compliant. It is unbelievable, really. And we know from the story that I did about the lack of supervision the kids were receiving in these hotels that the little boys were not only using the swimming pools, but they were using them unsupervised to the point where the boys were damaging the pools and the equipment around the pools and making the hotel staff very, very concerned for the safety of the kids near the pool. The little rambunctious rule-breaking boys, well, they weren't being prevented from swimming. It was only the little girls who were being denied their time in the pool because they had the unfortunate condition of being little girls. They had to swim at the crack of dawn or late at night or not swim at all, thanks to a federal government agency who advised a secular Canadian hotel to impose Sharia swimming on everyone else. Tomorrow, in our next installment of this ongoing investigation, I'm going to detail some of the ungrateful behavior of the Syrians in the face of Canada's ongoing generosity towards them. To see all of my reports about the behavior of the Syrian refugees inside Canadian hotels, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see all of my reports about what happens when the government houses migrants in Canadian hotels, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. And to help cover the cost of our access to these exclusive government documents, you can donate there too at refugeeinvestigation.com. In late 2015, to keep a campaign promise to bring in 50,000 refugees before Christmas, Justin Trudeau turned several Canadian hotels into makeshift migrant camps. And today, as part of an ongoing investigation, I'm going to show you how some of these Syrian refugees appreciated, or rather didn't appreciate at all, the generosity of Canadians. Toronto has itself an illegal migrant problem. The homeless shelters are full, and illegal migrants self-deporting from the United States are now being housed in Toronto area university dorm rooms. Those dorm rooms need to be available for Canadian students by the end of August, so the migrants are now being moved into hotel rooms. And Canada's Minister of Gangs and Borders has just announced that this will be an ongoing so-called solution to Canada's illegal migrant crisis. Just stick them in hotels and have the taxpayer pay for it all. And I've been investigating what happened the last time the federal government did something like this in 2015. Through access to information documents I've received, I've discovered the destruction to the hotels, sexual harassment of female housekeeping staff, the federal government's advising that the hotels make their swimming pools sex segregated and Sharia compliant, and I've also uncovered serious child neglect issues. You can check out all my stories at refugeeinvestigation.com. Now today I'm going to show you through these same documents what the migrants thought of Canadian generosity towards them after they got here. The ingratitude started long before the refugees ever landed on Canadian tarmacs. In this internal memo, the government explains that refugees had been missing their flights to Canada. Some of the reasons, though, are actually pretty good, like bad weather and lack of ground transportation, but other reasons are just plain terrible. The government says some refugees refused to board the airline or were denied boarding by the airlines. The refugees refused to get on a flight to Canada, and the Canadian taxpayer had to pay for the rescheduling costs to get them here. Once the refugees got to Canada, they treated our country like a garbage can. This is from a hotel manager. A health department worker complained to me that there was too much garbage lying around. This is because men and kids would drink coffee and smoke cigarettes and just throw it away on the ground. If you saw the amount of garbage, you would be very surprised. Then once again, I'm expected to hire someone to clean everything up, which is a lot of loose garbage flying around and cigarettes. That manager says they have pictures of refugees putting all their garbage clothing in the second floor laundry facility and just leaving it there for the trash. The email says, "You will not believe how much clothes I have thrown away." The guests receive free clothes, and the clothes they do not like is thrown into my laundry facility, and they expect my employees to throw it out for them. The manager says, "I do not understand why they are throwing away perfectly good clothes and why they are leaving the mess for me. This is not right." The manager also hopes that the guests are receiving an orientation so they know the rules and regulations and just the basic norms of Canadian society, because the manager has experienced some disgusting things the guests have done to his hotel rooms. Unbelievable. Buried in this government memo is a passing reference about something the hotels are complaining about, and it's bad. Hotels are complaining about the behavior of certain refugees. For example, children running in the parking lot unsupervised, spoiled public toilets, and possible criminal acts. The hotels are concerned that they are becoming a bit of a staging ground for criminal activity being committed by the refugees that Canada has so graciously taken in. That's not how Justin Trudeau told us this whole refugee thing would work out, is it? And I can see in this other internal government memo that after the refugees got here, they decided they didn't particularly like it here in Canada, and then they wanted to go home to an apparent war zone. Look at this. Clients wish to return to the Middle East or elsewhere outside of Canada. For these cases, CM's role was clear. Canada's mandate is to bring refugees into Canada, and that once in Canada, the Charter guarantees freedom of movement. If the refugees want to return to the Middle East, they are entitled to do so, but without the assistance of the Canadian government. But as someone who has spent over a week going through the details of the refugee problem with a fine-tooth comb, I say if these people want to go back, we should buy them a first-class ticket out of here. It is much, much cheaper. There are plenty of people in the world who want desperately to become Canadian, and they're willing to take the time to come in through the front door and do everything right. And they are being bumped out of the immigration queue by people who want to gobble up our resources, commit crimes, treat our country like a garbage can, and then go back when we don't do enough gracious things for them. To see my prior investigative work on the Syrian refugees and the Canadian hotels, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you about how the government and their contractors and translators handled this problem in the hotels. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see all of my ongoing coverage of the Syrian refugees who were warehoused in Canadian hotels, and to help cover the cost of getting access to these explosive government documents, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. Today is the sixth and final installment of my ongoing investigation into what happened when Justin Trudeau housed Syrian migrants in Canadian hotels. Today I'm going to show you how the government, their interpreters, and their paid on-site monitors handled the task of dealing with the migrants. Over the course of this week and last, I've shown you what happened in the hotels that Canadian taxpayers paid for after Justin Trudeau met his virtue signaling goal of 50,000 Syrian refugees brought into the country before the end of 2015. Now, through access to information documents, I've shown you the physical destruction done to these hotels. I've shown you the disrespect and even the sexual harassment committed against hotel staff by the Syrian refugees. I've shown you the child neglect and the sex segregation in the hotel swimming pools. I've shown you how the Syrians quite literally threw Canadian generosity into the garbage because it wasn't good enough for them. And today I'm going to show you how the Canadian government and their on-site monitors in the hotels handled all of this, which is to say they didn't really at all. Quite literally, it was reported that oftentimes they were asleep on the job. Let's get right back into these access to information documents. Here is a flabbergasted email from one hotel manager to the federal government. This manager is livid. And even though the email has been heavily redacted in places, you can put together that the on-site government monitor has been interfering with the work the hotel is trying to do. The email says, "I'm sorry, but this is Canada. And if we were to visit Syria, we would be served Syrian food. If we went to Mexico, it would be Mexican food. This morning, a room has 2 toasters in the room. I'm assuming because they are toasting the bread, name redacted, has given them. How did they get this toaster? Does name redacted not realize that if they die of allergic reaction and the media gets a hold, that would be a great story? We are a professional organization and we have rules to follow. He needs to understand that and not tell my team how to run the hotel because he is confusing personal feelings with professional feelings." The email goes on and on. It says, "It's hard to see refugees waste food when so many have none." When name redacted, but again, this is clearly referring to the on-site government monitor, is on-site, He disregards our meal times. Can you also confirm if name redacted is supposed to eat meals here because no one is paying for their meals? This poor manager goes on to say that the Syrian refugees are being treated like royalty, and I quote, "Because our hotel is about service, we have not discredited our service because they are refugees. We believe all guests are treated equal. This treatment they won't get in other hotels. My staff have brought toys and coloring books from their own pockets for the children. They've tried to understand their situation and make this a lasting impression for their first visit to Canada. All I ask is that name redacted," again, this is the on-site government monitor, "do their jobs, translate and coordinate meal times, explain hotel rules, and not do their jobs because of their personal feelings. At the end of the day, we have regular business to operate and regular hotel guests who should be having a good impression. My concerns are also of health and safety. Can you send us the responsibility of the name redacted?" Again, this is the on-site government monitors, "please, because they are not on vacation when they are here to eat and watch TV in the rooms while my staff do all their work." So the on-site government monitors, who are there to facilitate and manage the refugees in these hotels, are not doing their jobs. They're laying about like they're on vacation, eating food and not paying for it, and even facilitating the bad behavior of the refugees in the rooms. This email here says that there have been no payments made to date, and the hotel would rather cancel the contract than take refugee groups again for long stays. In this internal government email, they talk about 43 incident reports, 41 from Montreal and 2 from Toronto, with an estimated total compensation for those additional incidents at $33,500. And then there was a whole swath of things that the government didn't bother to compensate the hotels for, including any damage in the common area, extra in-house cleaning and maintenance, and claims of items taken from the hotel rooms. The government also refused to pay for any of the times that the fire department had to come out to the hotels because the refugees pulled the fire alarm. The government also refused to pay for elevator damage done by the refugees, but they did pay for something called a fish pond incident or incidents, but I couldn't find out what these refugees had done to or in that fish pond that we all had to pay for. And in this astounding final email chain, 2 government bureaucrats are talking amongst themselves about the problems at the hotels. One hotel has been complaining that they've had to find alternative accommodations for their guests because of customer complaints about fears for their safety. The other bureaucrat replies that the hotel has had significant complaints, as had others. It also says that we can see complaints on TripAdvisor across all of the hotels. The bureaucrat says they'll be looking to provide positive reviews to hopefully offset these negative comments. This is unbelievable. This is 2 government bureaucrats literally talking about planting fake news and fake reviews to mislead the public about the conditions the public is about to spend their hard-earned money on when they book a hotel room. The government is going to pay someone to plant lies so that when you check into a hotel with your family, you have no idea that it's a migrant camp, a dangerous, dirty, sexually charged migrant camp. The government lied to the public, and they used TripAdvisor to do it. They damaged the trust that people have in TripAdvisor, but I don't think they could damage the trust that we have in the government any more than they already have. What's chilling about my ongoing investigation is that using hotels as migrant shelters has now become a permanent solution to deal with the migrant crisis created by illegal asylum seekers walking across our southern border to take advantage of an immigration loophole. This is not a solution to an immigration problem. It is just shuffling the cards. And we have just learned that we can't trust TripAdvisor because the government is planting fake news in TripAdvisor to mislead all of us. We are being lied to. To see all of my stories in my quest to bring you the truth about the Syrian refugees in Canadian hotels, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see the whole 6-part investigative series into the Liberals housing migrants in Canadian hotels, go to refugeeinvestigation.com. And while you're there, if you can help pitch in to cover the costs of getting access to these exclusive documents, you can do that too at refugeeinvestigation.com.